Alrighty. So this is sort of like a half sort of interview, a little bit of history, a little bit about the new album as well.
Yeah. Cool.
So I'll try not to push your memory too much, but I'm sure it's been pushed many times before.
Well, thank God for you guys. I mean, I wouldn't have a memory if it wasn't people like yourself reminding me. I sometimes joke, that I'm trying to write my memoirs, my biography, but I say I'm having trouble because I can't remember anything. So the gag is that I'm going to write a brochure or a pamphlet. But nowadays, when you think about it, we don't need a memory anymore. We've got Google.
That's right. Google's our memory.
Yep.
It's all there.
Say, I can't remember. I'll Google it. And there you go. Google is our memory. There's a song in there.
There is a song in that. Yeah. Just to kick off, were you ever driven by great ambition? I mean, you reached the absolute pinnacle of success with LRB. Was success of that scale your ultimate goal, or are you always just happy to make the best music you could, and whatever happened?
Yeah, the latter.
Yeah.
The latter, really. I know I never dreamed of cracking it worldwide and going to the top of the charts in the States. But as that time drew closer, it did seem more of a reality, let me put it that way. And, that it was in my grasp to be a part of that sort of success. So the confidence had risen. But no, to begin with, I just want to be part of this newfangled rock and roll, as it was newfangled when I was 12, 13, 14, growing up in suburban South Australia. It was rock and roll was our identity. The word teenagers hadn't been invented until rock and roll came along.
True. Yeah.
And we became teenagers. I said, we're a genre. We're a body of a force to be reckoned with, and of course that rock and roll rebellious attitude has driven rock and roll a part of the way, always has done. Attitude is a large part of it. Brian Cadd said that. A large part of rock and roll is the attitude.
Going back to those early days with the Twilights back in Adelaide, I mean, a lot of great bands came out of Adelaide in that time. Was it a competitive scene over there? Yeah,
it was competitive, but it wasn't cutthroat by any means. The Twilights, we were lucky. We came together as friends to begin with. We were a vocal group together, and then we joined with a Shadows type band. The Hurricanes, all because of the Beatles. The Beatles homogenised the act. It was no longer Cliff Richard and the Shadows or Jim Vincent and the Blue Caps or whatever. It was the group became the entity, and we just got lucky. We had 6 guys in that group that clicked together, and there were no passengers. Really, everybody contributed, and we rode that Mersey beat English wave very nicely. We began as a cover band, obviously. The other thing the Beatles turned us on to was writing your own material. Which was, largely unknown in those days, apart from people like Neil Diamond, although Neil Diamond didn't record his own material, he wrote for other people.
That's right, yeah, he was a songwriter for hire, yeah.
The Brill building, everybody knows about that. Although in those days we didn't know about that. We didn't even question where the music came from until we really got into the nitty-gritty of it and found out that it came from Negro blues and jazz and all sorts of country and western. Country and western was very obvious to the early rock and roll, I think. It was just country and western songs put to a backbeat. Really.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's our musicology interview, really, isn't it?
Sadly, I'm not old enough to have seen the Twilights live on stage, but from all reports, the band had an incredible live reputation. I assume there must have been a great work ethic within the band to achieve and maintain that quality.
Absolutely, yeah. We wanted to sound like everybody else. And if we're going to play a Kinks song, we wanted it to sound like the Kinks.
Yeah.
If we're going to play a Beatles song, we wanted it to sound like the Beatles. The Rolling Stones, we wanted it to sound like the Rolling Stones. But then, gradually, as I say, we found out that you could write your own, and it wasn't that hard. I wrote the first original song that the Twilights recorded, but it was only released in Adelaide at that time. It was prophetically called "I Don't Know Where the Wind Will Blow Me." And then Terry Britton started to write songs, and he was much better at it than me, and I sort of put that to one side and concentrated on selling the original material of the Twilights, and also later on Brian Cadd and Don Moody's material in Axiom. I've always been the salesman of the band, really, and then gradually I sort of got back into writing songs, and that helped my transition into being part of Little River Band.
Now, the Twilights took that boat trip to the UK after winning Battle of the Sounds. Did you go there with any notions of what to expect?
Not really. We didn't have a lot of... we were just enjoying ourselves. A trip across the world on an ocean liner, playing a couple of nights a week, and having a lot of fun. We had more fun than anything else, really. And then when we got to England, we were only there for about 6-7 months, and it was the middle of winter. That didn't go down very well. We'd just come from summer in Australia. We're freezing our tits off in a basement apartment in Earl's Court, Kangaroo Valley, as they called it. But we had some exciting times there. We did record at Abbey Road and along the corridor from the Beatles, which was very exciting. In fact, terrifying in a way. We produced 3 songs in one night. What's Wrong with the Way I Live, Young Girl, and 950, and they all did well for us. And down the corridor, the Beatles were doing Penny Lane. It's just an amazing time for us.
Yeah.
And but as I say, we weren't moving forward much, and we were missing our private lives, our young brides and fiancées and girlfriends and whatever back in Australia, where we were already famous. And so we sort of threw it all in and said, "Oh, let's go home." So that's what we did. And we left 3 weeks before we were due to appear on Top of the Pops.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's crazy. But that's the way we were then. We didn't think about the career that much. We just did what we wanted to do, and we were very democratic. We all voted together and did all those sort of things. We still have a strong bond. The ones that are left, which is most of us. There are 5 of us left now, and we still keep in contact, and sometimes even play together, which is fun.
Well, and Terry's contributed a couple of songs to the new album. That must be fantastic to have that connection 50 years down the track. Oh
yeah, it definitely is, and it's something that I cherish. That I've always talked about fellowship, and that's where I found fellowship in music and being in bands. I'm now a solo artist, but I'm still hanging out with musos. I'm still in bands.
Yeah.
They may change a little bit here and there, depending on availability. But now I've got a huge amount of musicians that I can play with and have fun with. It's good. It's lovely. And now I'm doing some work with Brian again. I enjoy that. Cad and I have a lot of fun together. It's got to be. We've got to be able to laugh, especially in this day and age. You have to.
Oh God, yeah.
Such a crazy bloody world.
Now, Twilights did that pilot for a TV series. It didn't go ahead. Have you ever pondered the career direction the band might have had that continued and been successful?
Pondered it, but not anguished over it. Just one of those lessons in life and in your career. There's been a few of those disappointments along the way, as I just articulated leaving England. That was a silly thing to do, but that was just an opportunity that we had. Let's go home.
Yeah.
Rather than be famous in England. But who knows? You just don't know. I mean, that show could have gone to air and died a death. It wasn't very good. I don't know if you ever seen it.
I have. I was watching it. I saw it on YouTube the other day, actually. Yeah.
It's pretty stupid. Ronnie Burns is in it, as you can probably notice.
Yeah.
And he and I were talking about it recently because I was out on the road with him with a reunited Go show live, which goes out every other couple of years, and we were laughing about that. So, no, I don't ponder too much about what happened. I mean, most of what has happened to me has been good.
Yeah.
So I'm a happy chappy.
Talk about the formation of Axiom. It was dubbed as something of a super group. Were you indeed ready to jump straight back into another band situation at that point?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I was itching. Yeah, I didn't know. I was frustrated. I became an agent for a short while and then took on the management of a band that had come down to Melbourne from Brisbane. They were called the Avengers. And I managed them around Melbourne, and tried to do as much as I could for them, but I hated going out on the gigs and then having to stand in the wings while these guys went out and did their thing. So when Cad approached me, I remember at Ian Meldrum's place, actually, or was it Daryl Samuels? I can't remember, one of the two. They lived close together. They may have lived together for a while. It is back in the mist of time, remember? Well, I remember Brian coming to me and said, "You want to form a band?" So I said, "Yeah, okay, let's go."
I remember speaking to Shel Telmy, the American producer who produced Axiom's second album. He loved the band and regards
Spoke to you?
Yeah, I spoke to him, yeah. He regards it as one of his great regrets that the band pretty much broke up by the time the album was released and it wasn't given a chance to fly. Is that pretty much how it happened?
It's a bit of a haze, that part of my life. We were smoking a bit of weed at the time. We weren't happy with Shel Talman's production. We didn't like the way he stuck all brass and strings all over it. We wanted to be an organic band, but he had other ideas. The other thing was he was partly deaf.
That's right, yeah.
And couldn't see very well. Not exactly great assets for a record producer. So, yeah, it was a similar thing. The weather drove us mad. We were all living together in a leaky old house in suburb, and Don Moody, who was Brian's writing partner, just couldn't deal with it. He was asthmatic, and he said, "I'm going home." And then everybody said, "Oh, let's go home." And I said, "No, I'm not going home again. I'm gonna stay here." And thankfully, I did stay, and started, being a songwriter and just learning more and more about what it is to be in the music business. And Brian, of course, went back to Australia and formed the Bootleg family and became his own mini mogul there for a while.
Yeah.
And Brian's very experienced in the game. He's probably the most experienced guy that I know. He's been knocking on the door for a long time, but he's like me. He's philosophical. As long as you stay happy and have a few wines and a few laughs, and you don't make any enemies, and you make some good friends, I think
life is good.
Life is good, exactly.
In hindsight, though, do you think America might have been a better option for Axiom rather than trying to break the English market?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, to quote Brian again, he said we zigged when we should have zagged.
Yeah.
But to get to America in those days was a lot more difficult. England was a lot more accessible, partly because of the green card and and also the attitude that we had about, oh shit, America, what are they, that's where it all began. Why would they need another rock and roll band? It seemed easier to move backwards and forwards for Aussie bands between Australia and England, for obvious reasons. I mean, Australia was a British colony, wasn't it? We were a very British nation back then.
True.
And then when time came to join forces with Glenn Wheatley, who'd had managerial experience in America, who knew a bit about the game in America, then I said, I'm confident that we can do this. We were confident in the material as well. We had 3 writers with an arsenal of about 100 songs when we began. So, our first few albums were very strong artistically and song-wise. It wasn't until later we started to fragment a bit, but that's another story. Or maybe it's the same story.
My favourite Little River Band album is one you released prior to having that international success, the After Hours album. I'd always loved it. I thought it was a remarkable piece of work, even though it's not remembered as one of your most successful.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Had we stayed with that direction, I think we would have done even better. Although, I mean, we did pretty well, let's face it. But unfortunately, Graham and Beeb were never satisfied with the people that they were playing with for some strange reason, and so we started to change members, and that carried on through the whole of LRB's career in one way or another. And in fact, they changed me twice. So no, I really liked After Hours as well. I've been thinking about going out and doing. The way the shows these days, you got the Beatles albums, Revolver and
yeah, from start to finish, yeah.
That sort of stuff, yeah. I thought I might give that a crack next year. This year. So After Hours and Diamonds in a Cocktail, perhaps. I think that would be a good bunch of songs.
Oh, I'd be there front and centre for that. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, well, I might have to get Rick Formosa out of the. Wherever he is. he's in Ballarat, of all places.
Oh, is he? Ah.
Or studio. Who'd have a record studio in Ballarat? Only Rick Formosa. Yeah, he's a left of field kind of guy.
So I know you toured with Beeb and Graham again about a decade or so ago. Is the door totally closed on performing with them again?
Oh, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's not locked, obviously, but no, there's too much water under the bridge now, mate. I'm keeping on. That's what I do. I'm a singer, and that's what I've always done. Is make my living by standing on stage and entertaining people. Beeb and Graham have dropped away. They haven't. I don't think they pick up. Well, they probably play guitar, but it'd be a bit of a struggle for them to get match fit again, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But horses for courses as well. I'm enjoying my time in my life now, when there's not much to prove, and people are still coming to the shows and enjoying my voice and the songs I do. So that's the way it should be, as far as I can see. I'm not chasing the brass ring anymore. But you never say never, of course.
Never say never, yeah. Before we talk about the new album, I was listening to your first solo album the other day, Villain of the Piece. It's been a while since I heard it, but gee, it holds up really well, and it's a great album, and pretty much went under the radar at the time. Do you have a theory on why that was?
I don't know. It's just people associate me with a band, I think. For many reasons. I thought that was a good album as well, but you always try to rationalise why it didn't work, and one of the rationalisation is it was a knee-jerk reaction for being sort of shuffled out of LRB, as it were, and for Farnham to join. And I thought, well, fuck you, I'll go and do my own. And it didn't really didn't really work with the Americans. I don't know, but I enjoyed doing it, and I think John Boyle was a great producer, and he put together a lot of great musicians on that album behind me, and it was really fun to do. And also other things I've done, the Blazing Salads thing with Brian. We wrote some great tunes on that album, and that disappeared. And so far, Rise Again has not risen at all. It's just been totally ignored, really. I've never seen a review or people around me, and that people and fans that know me like it, but the great unwashed hardly know it's there. So that it'll probably go the same way. I did an acoustic album as well of songs. That was just because I wanted to do an acoustic album, and because everybody else was doing an acoustic album. But I think if I do anything now, I'd have to think very carefully of what style of album I produce, and whether I rely on original material, or do I do as some people say, you got to make it sound like Little River Band.
Yeah.
I say, well, I'm sorry,
You've already done that.
This is what I sound like now, and I'm happy with the eclectic feel and the dynamics of this album, and that accidentally became an album, really.
It was an EP originally, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I just thought, I'll just put 4 or 5 songs out and just see what happens. See if people still remember me. And then other people said, well, I've got a song. And then, Terry Britton says, here's 2 songs. And my bass player says, here's a song called Rise Again. And I was like, oh, shit. Yeah, that's good. I like that. That's a very positive. That'll work well. And all of a sudden I've got 10 tracks, and there's your album. But I'm happy with the feel of it. It goes all over the place. It doesn't stay in one place, and I always like records like that. That's why I like Paul Simon and James Taylor and people like that. They tend to try things over their career. And look at Simon. He went to Africa and did an album and became the biggest thing he's ever done.
Exactly, yeah.
So I'm a fan of that stepping outside the square. But maybe next time I better get back in the square.
So that diversity in style for the album, that was the game plan right from the beginning. It didn't just pan out that way in the studio.
No. Well, it didn't even turn into an album in the studio. A lot of what I recorded had already been recorded. I just put my voice on it. The 2 Terry Britton songs they're basically Terry's demos. And I said, I think that's great. I love it. And he said, well, just put your lead on it. So I did. So it all happened by accident, really. It wasn't a plan. It became a plan as I suddenly realised, oh shit, I've got some good material here. I think it should be, should be marketed properly, and therein lies another issue as well. I don't know whether I went with the right people, but it's one finds oneself in a strange position at my stage of life, and having had the success that I have had. People think, oh well, he's famous now. He doesn't need anything else.
Yeah.
But you can't stop. You can't stop the ambition and the creativity of people like myself. Brian's just done an album as well. And he's really gone back to his roots, and maybe I'll do that. I don't know. I can. I'm lucky enough to be able to move in different directions. My voice is versatile. I can sing in different styles, and that's what I want to keep doing, really. Maybe I should do show tunes, I don't know.
So you're with Social Family Records has got this album. How did you get involved with them?
Somebody told me about them and said that they were good, and they would lift my profile as far as social media goes, and it did that for a while. But I was a bit disappointed with the actual marketing of the album here in Australia, and nothing in America. I don't think many people even know that I've got an album there. So I'm just going to have another crack at it next year, as far as getting into America. But as the years go on, you get a bit tired of stoking the star maker machinery, as it were.
In the words of Joni. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's another thing. I was listening. Court and Spark is my all-time favourite album. I was thinking, shit, I could do that. I could sing that material without being a bit silly, about a free man in Paris and all that sort of stuff. There's always room to move, and one always thinks about reinventing oneself in such a small market as Australia still is. I've put shows together with myself and Doug Parkinson and Wendy Matthews called Reminiscing, and I've done Sharky and the Cabman with Brian, and we're going to do that again this year, later on in the year. So, there are all sorts of ways of performing. But as I said, the longer it goes on, do I still want to still climbing the ladder? I'm quite happy where I am.
Talk about a couple of the songs on the album. The opening track, Hear My Voice, to me is a bit of a commentary on the ongoing saga of the LOB band name rights. As a fan, it makes my blood boil to see this bogus band going around America trading off your work. And so for you being directly affected, I can only imagine it's been a gut-wrenching time.
I haven't let it be a gut-wrenching time. I'm not as sad about it as Beeb and Graham and some of the other members are, because they are no longer they're no longer performing, really.
Yeah.
It's a shame. We should be out there doing our reunion concerts and celebrating our own 40-year anniversary on the Jimmy Fallon show rather than the other bodgy band. But on the other side of the coin, or the other blade of the sword, you can't deny musicians earning their living. They've got families to support and whatever. So it just gets annoying, irritating, or whatever you want to say. After 12 years of me trying to get back to America and do some stuff, and being threatened with injunctions by these guys. And if I were to take them on in the American law system, legal system, I would probably win, but I'd probably go broke doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to carry on the way I am.
I know you're a big fan of the band, and Axiom was certainly influenced by the band, but on this album, I hear shades of the band on the track Stick Up Your Finger. It sort of reminds me a little bit of Up on Cripple Creek. It's got that feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not hiding my influences.
Yeah. So that was the feel you were looking for? No,
I wasn't looking for it, really. I just said, play it like the band. I play it like Little Feat. Little Feat later on would still are the best band that I've ever seen in my life. Because we actually worked with them. Little River Band, on one of the later tours I did with them. We opened for Little Feat for a while. That was fantastic. So yeah, the band and Little Feat are the two best bands that I've ever seen perform, and I just like that style of music. It's very, very American.
Yeah,
it's very, very original, very down home stuff.
I think I saw you mention somewhere that this album came out of a period of writer's block for you. Is that right? Was that tongue in cheek?
No, it's just a gag I use. I had writer's block for 8 years now, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I just couldn't finish anything. Basically, I didn't have writer's block. I just kept writing and didn't finish anything.
Yeah.
I still got heaps of material that probably needs finishing. But as I just articulated, do I have the wherewithal to stick my head up again and have it shot down again or pushed down again? I'll do what I feel like doing. I'll think about it.
Has your method of constructing a song, of writing a song, changed much through the years?
No, but I'm always looking for that. But it's hard to do. I'm not accomplished as a musician, a player, to do that. But I've always looked at ways of expressing creativity rather than just verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus. People like Frank Zappa have been terribly inspirational to me, but Frank Zappa was enigmatic. He was just a one-off. And also Dylan, all these sort of eclectic geniuses that I've listened to over the years. But I'm not a genius, I'm an entertainer, so that's what I have to do.
And you continue to do. You got some shows coming up with Brian again early in this year, in the new year. When you're constructing a live set, how important is it to come up with a balance of the classic material and some newer material, a balance that will satisfy both you and the audience?
Well, this show that we don't do much new stuff at all. I'll probably do one song from Rise Again, and Brian's going to do one song from his. But our show is a trip down memory lane, and basically that's what people want to see and hear anyway. Yeah.
And
good.
Any other plans for the year after the tour with Brian?
No, I'm just going to keep my eye on the American situation and think about maybe recording something else in the year. I've just finished acting in a feature film, which is in the process of being produced, but that won't. I don't think that'll see the light of day before the end of this year.
Okay.
That's kind of a, who knows? I might become an actor.
You never know.
You never know.
Fantastic. Hey, Glenn, thank you so much for your time. It's been an honour to catch up with you and chat about the old stuff and the new stuff. And congratulations on the new album. I love it.
Yeah, good, mate. Thank you very much. And give our shows Frankston and Ballarat a push if you can.
Absolutely. Well, we're not far from Frankston where this goes to air, so I'll certainly be giving that a push. Yeah.
Good on you. Thanks. Anytime, give us a call.
Good on you. Thanks a lot, Glenn.
Thank you, mate. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.